inflation is still a problem. It's still too high. Americans are feeling this strain of persistent inflation that's taken place for years now, and they can't seem to keep up. Hello, welcome to this week's economy. I'm your host, Dr. Vance Ginn. Thank you for joining me again today. Well, as Election Day approaches, critical issues like school choice, the federal deficit, Medicare, inflation, amnesty, and financial data, privacy dominate discussions. From the growing debate on school choice to alarming projections about our national debt, these policies will impact your very lives. Here's a brief look at what I've been doing over the last week or so and what I've been looking for the future as well. So, number one, school choice in the upcoming election. In the news, with the election day fast approaching, school choice has become a major topic of debate. Presidential candidates are being asked whether they stand on the crucial issue, while in Texas, Democrats aim to flip enough House seats to block school choice legislation. In my view, universal choice is essential. We need school choice across the board in Texas and all other states because research finds that this is the best way to empower parents, students, teachers, and even taxpayers across the board. These are all benefits that are provided through competition. The problem with the current situation is that we have a monopoly government school system where about 90% or even more of students go to school. And at the same time, we have a monopsony situation where we're about 93% of teachers are employed by those government schools. And so this creates a tough situation where teachers can't negotiate higher pay because it's based on government mandated salary schedules and everything and what the government determines and politicians, right? And a lot of money going to bureaucrats and administrative staff, not going to the classroom, okay? And then we have an overfunded public school system too that I've talked a lot about where, we have more funding going per student to public education really than ever before in most places, while we have declining test scores. In Texas in particular, we have a 42% increase since 2011 in per student spending and a 40% decline in proficiency in 8th grade math. That's just ridiculous. And look, where the candidates stand, Trump supports universal education savings accounts and school choice, which is a good direction which is a good, step in the right direction. The Democratic platform opposes taxpayer-funded, what they call school vouchers. But ultimately, right, this should be left to the states, not the federal government. I don't like the idea of the federal government providing school choice and other things because then the federal government's likely to get more involved. Whereas with the state providing universal ESAs, when the dollars go to the parents, then they have no more rights or regulations to be able to pass along to homeschoolers, private schoolers, co-ops, and everyone else who wants to use the money. And ultimately, that money should be going to public schools so they are funded based on competition and their quality. And that's why you normally see, public schools improve their outcomes whenever they have competition. So this is great. We got over 30 states, including, in Texas and Colorado, are pushing for some school choice legislation, signaling a strong momentum for broader adoption in other states. Let's get it done, okay? Number two, report claims deficit will increase more under Trump. In the news, a new report from the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget suggests that while a Harris presidency would add $3.5 trillion to the federal debt over 10 years, on top of the $20 trillion that it's already expected to have under current law, a Trump presidency could add between $7.5 to $15.2 trillion. My perspective on this is that both candidates are ignoring the big problem in the room, the elephant in the room, if you will, of spending. Spending is the problem. They're both talking for exempting different things, Social Security incomes, tips. They're trying to add more in child tax credits. Trump is trying to add more in tariffs. But look, under the Trump administration compared to the Biden-Harris administration, tariff revenue, remember tax revenue coming from us Americans, has actually increased. It's almost about double, if not more, under the Biden administration than it was under the Trump administration. So they've doubled down on those bad ideas. What we do need to do is extend the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which expire at the end of 2025. And I think we could go even further to reform the tax code, removing a lot of the exemptions and loopholes and everything else. Don't add more. The more that you add to narrowing the tax base, the higher the tax rates have to be, or the larger the deficits, meaning more cost to all of us in the process. So look, whoever's running for president has got to get serious about spending. That's the problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We've got a spending problem. That's how we also get more economic growth, okay? So number three, Cost of amnesty and Medicare for all. In the news, my new study published at the Tholos Foundation estimates that the Vice President Kamala Harris's quote-unquote Medicare for all proposal, which includes coverage for illegal immigrants, including amnesty if potentially and things of that nature, would add $2 trillion in cost over time, raising concerns about the program's sustainability as Medicare faces insolvency already by 2036. My take on this is we have rising national debt and illegal immigration. The national debt is already over $35 trillion. We've got 11 to 12.5 million illegal immigrants who are here in the United States now, is what some say. There are more in encounters, but remember, encounters can be multiple people or multiple encounters of the same people. And so I don't like to use those. I don't think it's a good idea to use those encounter numbers. Really, we should be looking at the actual number of people that we estimate to be here, which of course they're all estimates either way. But whenever I did the study and looking at other analysis that are out there by the American Action Forum and Manhattan Institute and others, I find that Medicare for all could cost $44 trillion over time. Just a massive amount of money. And if you look at the amount going for amnesty for those who could get Medicare for all and paid in and are eligible and everything else, estimates show about $2 trillion. Now, if you look at just those people that are here, like our current Medicare system, that could be closer to $1.8 trillion once those individuals get Medicare and they're eligible and everything else over time. So over kind of a rolling 10-year window, could be about $1.8 trillion in increased cost. Now, I also note the benefits of immigration. We do need more immigrants, in my view. We need more of a market-based visa system. We also should be looking at Medicare reforms like grant healthcare savings accounts and things of that nature. And we should be looking at reducing the cost of healthcare through block grants to states for Medicaid and even some of the other programs that are out there at the end of the day. And finally, we've got to have sustainable budgeting. We need a strong spending limit. We need cuts in federal spending and then a spending limit over time. Those are the types of things that will prioritize key reforms that are needed. And ultimately, the immigration issue is a humanitarian crisis along the border that the border wall isn't going to solve by itself. If it's going to solve it at all, we really need a broader based, market-based system. If we would have had that system in place over time, we would not have the problems that we do along the border. And so we don't put a Band-Aid on something that needs a healing underneath the system as a whole. So don't miss that paper, though. I really think it's a great one that you'll want to check out. Number 4, the CFPB finalizes Section 1033 on data sharing. In the news, in October 2023, the CFPB released a proposed rule under Section 1033, focusing on financial data and data sharing practices. The final rule is expected later this month or next. Section 1033's aim, while the rule mandates in financial institutions provide consumer transaction and account data to consumers and their authorized third parties, such as fintech companies or other service providers. This would allow consumers to switch institutions offering better services or rates more easily without facing obstacles in assessing their data. Privacy and security concerns, though, are because implementation raises significant privacy concerns. A primary issue is a lack of oversight for non-bank third-party entities accessing this sensitive financial data. These entities, unlike banks, operate under less rigorous standards, increasing this risk of fraud, data misuse, and breaches. The solution really here is more transparency. Instead of more government intervention, the focus should be on developing clear, enforceable standards that protect consumers while fostering healthy competition and innovation within the financial industry. Number 5, CPI inflation remains a problem. In the news, compared to early 2020, Americans now face more than 21% higher general price level. As election day approaches, this remains a key issue for voters. The recent CPI report showed headline inflation was up 2.4% year over year through September 2024, and core inflation, excluding food and energy, was up 3.3%. Average weekly earnings, though, adjusted for inflation, are down 3.4% since January of 2021, when Biden-Harris took office. My take on this is that inflation is still a problem. It's still too high. Americans are feeling this strain of persistent inflation that's taken place for years now, and they can't seem to keep up. And we're not tackling the root problems of this at all. And so the CPI, revealed the slowest annual increase since February of 2021. So that's a benefit. But core CPI indicated underlying inflation is going to be around with us longer. This is one reason why I think we need to address the real issues to curb inflation, which means less government spending, spending, lower regulation, lower taxes, but most importantly, reducing and cutting the money supply throughout the economy is still too high. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet, still $7 trillion on this bloated balance sheet. We're going to have inflationary pressures with us for a much longer time because the dollar's value continues to go down, driving up prices. So this cycle must be broken to improve economic conditions. Otherwise, I don't think that Americans are going to be able to feel that they're better off right now overall, okay? So with all of that, thanks for joining me in this episode of This Week's Economy. For more insights, visit vanceginn.com and get a paid subscription or check it out at no charge to my Substack newsletter at vanceginn.substack.com so you can receive all these things and insights in your inbox. God bless you and let people prosper.